Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. And welcome to a 2025 winter edition of Remember That? This is why I look at a TV show, movie, video game, or character that's forgotten by many people but remembered by few. And today we're going to be looking at an old 90s game which I feel is a good way to cure the winter blues. Snowboard Kids. Snowboard Kids is a snowboarding video game for the Nintendo 64. It was developed by Rakdyne and published by Atlus in 1997. Many reviewers have compared the style of this game to that of the Mario Kart series, and has spawned 2 sequels. Whereas most people from the 90s would remember the Mario Kart franchise and Diddy Racing for the N64, Snowboard Kids was a different racing game from all the others. The game follows a group of kids, Slash, Nancy, Jam, Linda and Tommy, as they decide to do snowboard racing to determine who's the snowboarding champion, and their racing escapades take them through 6 courses. Rookie Mountain, a short easy 5-lap course set on a snowy mountain. Big Snowman, another course set in a snowy mountain but much longer and only 2 laps long. It features several giant snowmen as decoration. Sunset Rock, yet another snowy mountain course, but this time set during sunset. It contains many moving hazards such as penguins, falling rocks and a snowman that shoots the players as they pass. This track is 3 laps long. Night Highway. While snow is still present, this significantly harder level finally takes the player away from the mountains to an abandoned highway at night. This is the first course featuring several different shortcuts and is 3 laps long. Grass Valley. Snow is completely absent this time. Instead, players race down a large grass-covered mountain, going through villages, forests, cornfields, mines, and eventually reaching the seaside. This course is 3 laps long, and a little snow returns for a large amusement park at night known as Disneyland. The race goes through and past many different attractions such as teacups, roller coasters, dinosaur exhibits, Ferris wheels and water rapids. This is 3 laps long and arguably the hardest of the starting courses. Not only was this a fun racing game to play on the Nintendo 64, but it also had fun characters to boot. You start off the game with 5 playable characters: Slash, the leader of the group, Nancy, the cute one, Jam, the cool kid. I would always play Snowboard Kids as Jam in the 90s, because he was my favourite character out of the bunch. I think it might have been something to do with the fact that he wears blue. Linda, the sex object of the group, since she's the only one that has boobs.
Why?
Yeah, it's kind of weird that these characters are kids and Linda's the only one that has boobs, but video game logic, I guess. And Tommy, the greedy kid. And I don't know if it's just me, but Tommy always reminded me of Wimpy from Popeye, because of his big nose, his round body, and the fact that he eats hamburgers. So I would often refer to him as Wimpy Jr. The races in this game are a lot of fun, as you snowboard down mountains and hills and other various places within the game. And the way you start the next lap is very unique compared to other racing games at the time. Because you snowboarded all the way down mountains and hills, you then have to take the ski lift back to the top to start the next lap. And you have to aim for the entrance to the ski lift just right. One wrong move and you'll be smashing against the wall and trying again. And if another racer gets to the entrance before you, then you can't enter while they're entering. So again, you end up whacking into the wall and trying again. This was a really unique way to start the next lap of a race, since no other racing game at the time had done that. We're always used to starting the next lap as soon as you reach the end of the course, since it's just a round track. But because you snowboard down mountains and hills in this game, you have to take the ski lift back up. That's a very unique way of racing, in my opinion. And like the Mario Kart franchise and Diddy Racing, Snowboard Kids also had some unlockables. And coming first place in all the races also lets you unlock 3 new race courses. The first unlockable course is a large desert course known as Quicksand Valley, and possibly the hardest in the game, as it features many hard to avoid pits. It contains 3 laps and various shortcuts. Once you win first place in Quicksand Valley, you'll then unlock Silver Mountain, which returns to the snowy mountainous themes of the opening tracks. It's a very long course with poor visibility due to intentional fogging, and contains several large jumps. It has 3 laps in it, And coming first place in Silver Mountain then unlocks the final course, Ninja Land, themed around ancient Japanese culture. It is the shortest course in the game, but contains 9 laps on the battle mode to make up for this. The course is divided into 4 sections, each highlighting a particular season, from cherry blossoms at the opening area to the snowy track at the final area. But by far the most exciting unlockable in the whole game was Cinnabin. Coming first place in Ninja Land also unlocks the 6th racer in the game, Cinnabin, the Ninja Kid. Cinnabin is easily the best playable character in the game, since he's really good around tight corners, and he's the best at performing tricks when need be. And I just think it's really awesome how he doesn't move his arms or legs when he's snowboarding. He just does the whole thing cross-armed. That's badass. Because Cinnabin's like the fastest racer in the entire game, it took me quite a while to come in first place in the final race and win him. But it was totally worth it in the end. So you can well imagine that as soon as I unlocked Cinnabin, I started replaying the game as him the whole time. I just thought he was that cool. And it wasn't just snowboarding down mountains as part of a race that made Snowboard Kids fun. It was the other activities you had to do in the game. The game also has various challenges in it, much like Mario Kart and Diddy Kong Racing. The first challenge is a speed challenge where you have to collect as many hover pads as possible to make the fastest lap at the end of 3 races, without having to do multiple laps. The second one is a shootout game where you have to shoot as many snowmen as possible on the first 3 tracks of the game. Getting the most amount of snowmen and doing the fastest time will get you the most coins. It's kind of like the equivalent of the balloon battles from the Mario Kart franchise, except you don't have to play against any other enemies. We also have the Trick game, which takes place in Animal Land, a track exclusive to Trick game. It's a snowy course with many different animals watching from the sidelines. In this challenge you have to perform as many tricks as possible on your snowboard to win the most amount of coins. The highest scoring tricks you do, the more coins you'll get. And there's your basic time trial challenge where you go on every course trying to win each race in the fastest time possible. And if you're fed up of racing and want to upgrade your snowboard, you can visit the Snowboard shop, where you can buy 2 new types of snowboard for each of the groups and give your snowboards a new paint job whenever you want to. There are 3 types of snowboards you would use in the game: freestyle, all around and alpine. I always found myself playing with all around the most because all the skills on that board were equal to each other. You can enter the shop as all characters except for Cinnabin, since he has his own unique snowboard that looks like a scroll. And how do you get these new snowboards, might you ask? You remember those coins I mentioned when you win a race and a challenge? Well, those coins are your form of currency in the game. The more coins you get, the more snowboards you'll be able to buy. The game was generally well received by critics, but the most common criticism made against it is its lack of originality, with most reviews characterising it as a Mario Kart clone which fails to offer a meaningful innovation to interest Mario Kart enthusiasts. But it was still well received nonetheless, selling loads of copies. In fact, the game was so popular that it actually got a sequel a few years later, Snowboard Kids 2. Snowboard Kids 2 in 1999 for the N64, and 2005 saw the release of SBK Snowboard Kids released for the Nintendo DS, but no other sequels have been made since then. And I find it a real shame that this game has been under the radar for so long, and I think that's partly because most people remember the Mario Kart franchise and Diddy Kong Racing for the N64. Of course there have been other racing video games out there like that Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer game that no one really remembers. But while Snowboard Kids doesn't really top the Mario Kart franchise, I don't really think it was trying to. I mean, let's be honest, how can you compete with Mario Kart? It was just its own fun little racing game that offered something different from your typical kart racing. And I think it's the seize on being unique to how you race in the game. Another element that keeps me coming back to this classic is the music. In each level the music just sounds so damn catchy. Every bit of music suits every racing course for the game. Even the main menu music is catchy. The composers did an awesome job at making the music as catchy as possible to make people coming back for more of it. And I love it. What also made this game so memorable in the 90s was the fun animations we see whenever the characters got injured.
Bollocks!
It was like the equivalent of watching a cartoon show, except on your Nintendo 64. And I love it for that. It's just really funny to watch the characters' reactions whenever they get hit with a weapon. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. Like Mario Kart and Diddy Kong Racing, you get a set of weapons to use against your opponents, and the coins you collect throughout the races are how you get these items. If you don't have enough coins in your disposal, then you can't pick up an item from these boxes. And there are 2 types of item boxes in the game. There's red ones, which are your projectiles that you can fire onto your opponents, and And then there's the blue bosses containing what I like to call the defense weapons and the blue shell weapons. Weapons that help you defend yourself from players behind you and get the upper hand on any other player around you. My personal favourite is what I like to call the frying pan weapon, where you fire these various pans up in the air and then they flatten all the other races, giving you a good chance to pass all of them and come out in first place. The blue boxes also contain a ghost that is set to slow down the racer in first place, sort of a tamer version of the blue shell from Mario Kart. So if you're in first place and a ghost happens to show up, then he'll slow you down a little bit, giving the opponents a chance to pass you. However, if the racer in first place has one of these ghosts, then it will most likely go for the character in second place, showing that even when someone in first place uses a ghost, then no character is safe, which makes it unique from the blue shell, which always only goes for the car in first place. There's also what I like to call the Snowboard Kid's equivalent of Boo from Mario Party. What I mean by that is, whereas Boo steals stars and coins from any opponent that you choose if you land on his base, this item known as Ratface summons a mischievous mouse that pilfers coins from one of the other players, giving the collective money to its user. So it is basically the Mario Party Boo of the Snowboard Kids franchise. And it wouldn't be a racing game if you didn't have multiplayer in it as well as single player. Up to 4 players can race against each other in this game, but if you're inviting a group of friends with you to play, expect there to be blood, because you have to fire your projectiles at them and win a race. But however you look at it, Snowboard Kids is one of the funnest games for the Nintendo 64, and one of my personal favourites to go back to whenever I'm in the mood for 90s nostalgia. While nowhere near in the popularity levels as the Mario Kart franchise, Snowboard Kids is still a fun racing game that was quite unique for the Nintendo 64 at the time. It had fun characters, fun cartoony animations, it had a unique style to racing compared to other racing games at the time, and it's just an all-around fun game to play any time of the year. But I always find it a nice cure for the winter blues. And it's just fun to play around Christmas time as well. It's a fun game that I highly recommend checking out if you haven't played it for a while, or if you're new to the franchise. It's a nice change from Mario Kart and Diddy Kong Racing, and it's just an all-around fun game to play all the year round. It's definitely worth your time and investment if you haven't got this game already. It's one of the funnest games the Nintendo 64 had to offer. I'm Dalek44, and I'll see you next time, folks.
Bollocks.